Okay, I think we'll get started and people can filter in as they come. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. For those of you that are on the Isle of Man, I know it's very sunny, so I really appreciate your time. And for those of us joining from further afield, thank you so much for being with us this evening. It's great to be back for another Founders Pitch event, and we're delighted to have 4 fantastic companies with us this evening. A big thank you, as always, to our founded sponsors, Continent 8 Technologies, who continue to support the work that we're doing, and we are always grateful for their continued support. So we have 4 fantastic companies this evening. They are all bringing together wonderful solutions, applications, and platforms. I'm sure you'll all agree that we're in very challenging times at the moment, and we need people with great ideas and also opportunities that are going to make an impact on the way we live, the way we work, and the way that we play. So the format for this evening is we will have 4 companies. They'll all have a 10-minute slot each. The pitch will be between 6 to 7 minutes, and the rest of the time will be dedicated to Q&A. If you could please put your questions in the Q&A tab or in the chat, if that's easier, we will then work through those as we go. So first up this evening, I would like to introduce you to Marvin and Paul from Transition FC. With an average career length of just 8 years, many professional footballers need to find a second career. Transition FC provide a platform to prepare players for their post-playing careers, enabling them to network, learn, and explore opportunities in a safe environment. So without further ado, I will hand you over to Marvin and Paul.
Thank you. Hi everyone, my name is Marvin Shordell. I'm the founder of Transition FC. I'm a former professional football player, having played in the Football League, right from the Premier League down to League 2, and playing for England at under 20 and under 21 level, as well as representing Team GB at London 2012 Olympic Games. I wanted to start by asking a question, which was, what would you do if all of the work experience you had suddenly became irrelevant? This is the problem that every single football player, including myself, faces. I entered the game at the age of 16 with reasonable GCSEs and made my way towards becoming a professional football player. At 18, I got my first professional contract. At 23, I then started to think about what was next, what was going to come beyond my football career. And I quickly realized that I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had no idea how I would then get into the position of carving a new career in what I wanted to do either. And so when I did retire at the age of 28, those are 2 things that initially came to mind and sprung up, but then several other big factors played a part. So mental health, well-being, the financial implications, and then knowing the people, the right people to speak to be able to make headway and progress in that industry. And this is not a problem that is isolated. This is something that is very common throughout football. And Matthew Briggs is someone who made his debut and became the youngest player to play in the Premier League at the age of 16. And 150 plus career appearances later, plus 30 plus youth caps. He's got to the point at the age of 30 where he realized he has no idea what he wants to do, but he realizes that he has to figure it out pretty quickly. But in saying so, he knows that he doesn't want to stay in football. He wants to try a different career path. Sean Batt is someone who's played over 300 career games. And as most players do, when they leave the game, and he did so at the age of 31, he didn't plan for it. And he had an expensive mortgage, a family to raise, and realized very quickly that he had to do whatever he could to find a way to bring money in to pay the bills. And Harvey Still, again, a very common story, but different than the other 2 in this case. He was released from his club at the age of 18, and someone who thought about a secondary career path from very early, he went to his club to try and have that conversation, and he was consistently told that they'll have a chat next week, where these conversations never actually materialized. And I'd like to pass on to Paul.
Thanks, Marvin. So as mentioned, we're a platform that tries to provide a safe place for players to learn and network. And we hope that through doing this, people become more prepared for that change. Through our extensive customer research and user testing, we identified these 6 kind of themes that came out of it. The one that really stood out to me was around the overwhelming use of mobile devices, and this gave us our first kind of understanding of where we should push forward with our solution. We have a great understanding of our potential users. They have incredibly structured schedules, and we can use that to optimize the way that we present and publish content. Also, we can use the user interaction data to understand where individuals are in their journey and start to personalize it from there. When we were looking at potential technologies, we had 4 key factors that we wanted to achieve: speed to market, user experience, flexibility, and security. Through going through a number of different options, we identified Adalo as the potential best option as it balances these factors. When looking at our market size, we broke down the UK into 3 key places: UK players, youth players, and business members. In the UK player one, we believe there's around 6,000 members in this, and that's broken up into 3,000 current pros and 3,000 people who are recently retired. We think that a reasonable service obtainable market is around 20%, and that gives a per annum income of around 140,000. For the UK youth players, as you've seen on the stats before, a huge problem there, and we think there's a real opportunity to support individuals through that, whether that's by allowing parents on there to support younger members or allowing directly people onto there at the scholarship level. There are around 12,000 individuals in this marketplace, and we think around a 10% service obtainable market at 140k is reasonable. For the UK business membership, we approached it in a slightly different way. Through our customer experience and customer research, we identified that actually people wanted access to business members, and business members wanted access to an incredibly diverse talent pool. So what we did was we took the Deloitte Money League numbers to understand the non-sponsorship and non-broadcasting corporate partnership revenue, which came out as 416 million pounds revenue per year. And we broke that down into a conservative estimate of around 0.5% being focused on player services. And we believe an obtainable market size of around 300k is possible, which is made up of both membership and alternative revenue. If you extrapolate that out across the other 4 top European leagues, we believe that a realistic opportunity per annum is around 2.4 million pounds. In terms of our 3-year P&L, we're looking to make a loss of around 50,000 pounds in the first financial year, with profitability achieved in the second, and by FY 2024, having a year-end membership of around 10,000 users, EBITDA of 344,000, with a gross margin of about 50%.
With myself and Paul, we currently have a team of 4 in place that has a wealth of experience in the corporate, startup, subscription marketing, and of course, footballing world that gives us the tools needed to really bring Transition FC to life.
So what we need from you, we're looking for £50,000 worth of investment to really kickstart the mobile development of our application, give us the runway for that first hire. And we've got SEIs pending, and we're very confident around that. And we're projected to have a £2.5 million valuation by 2024.
And so I wanted to close again with the same question I opened with, which was, what would you do if all of the work experience you had suddenly became irrelevant? And this is a quote from Shane Duff, who played over 200 career appearances. And he said, when I was 28, I retired. I got an injury that year and was out contract in the summer. And that was it. Thank you for listening.
Thanks so much, guys. And Marvin and Paul, could you tell me if this platform could be used across other sports or related industries?
Yes, of course. So this is something that is a problem for every sports person in the country, across the world, and that at some point they're going to have to move on into another career path, because as we know, sports careers are very short, very limited, football being one that is glaringly obvious and one that I know, of course, from first-hand experience, but this is something that is replicated across the board in sport.
Okay, thank you. And John's just put in the chat, who are your competitors and what differentiates you from them?
So going back to when I first spoke about being at the age of 23 and first looking at career options, one of the biggest things that stood out to me is that there aren't people in this space doing what we're aiming to achieve, and there aren't people who are looking at all of the different things that come up and the questions that need answering from football players as soon as they retire or when they start thinking about retiring. So there are businesses that operate in the recruitment space, particularly for football players and sportsmen and sports people in general, but not necessarily something that actually aids the transition directly.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. And also another one that's just come through in the Q&A, what vocations do you think you can get your athletes to transition into? And will there be a conflict between pursuing their football career and being advised to call it a day and look at other careers?
So that's a great question, and something that comes up a lot with the conversations I have. To answer the second part of the question first, having thoughts around a secondary career is something that is and should be a fundamental part of a player's life and their career, because it is something that is inevitable. And something that I very often say is that every single player who became a professional spent at least 10 years working towards that. And they didn't just wake up and all of a sudden was a professional football player. So the mentality shift that needs to happen, where a player spends 10 years or even potentially longer working towards a secondary career, which is inevitable, has to happen. And I've forgotten the first part of the question. Sorry. You're mute, sorry.
So it was, what vocations do you think you can get your athletes to transition into?
Yeah, another great question. And I think that is something that is, it comes up a lot. I don't think there is any specific industry that is limited to professional football players, because as we know from people from any different background, demographic, they have different interests, different qualities, and can excel in different careers. It's just about initially giving them the option and putting that on the table, and I guess sparking that in their mind, and then showing them a clear path into how to get into that and succeed in that as well.
And with that, opening the eyes of the businesses as well, to show that there's a really, really good diverse talent pool that currently is being ignored. So it's that two-way thing of it, showing actually you can do it, and these are the people that you should hire.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. If anyone has any further questions, we will be posting Marvin and Paul's emails in the chat, so please contact them directly. Thank you very much, both of you.
Thanks very much.
Guys. Cheers.
Next up, we have Millie and Milo, and I would like to introduce you to Lydia and Felipe. So with Millie and Milo, it has never been easier to breed pedigree dogs responsibly. Simply register your dog and Millie and Milo will find their best available mate, screening for health history, genetics, personality, and more. And Felipe and Lydia will tell you more about Millie and Milo now.
Great, thanks, Katie. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, super. So thank you all for being here today. We are Millie and Milo. So just as a bit of intro, my name is Lydia Barbara. I'm the CEO and founder of a software development company here on the Isle of Man called Curbsy Limited. And for Millie and Milo, Curbsy is joining forces with Gaming Mechanics Limited.
And I'm Felipe Seoto. I'm the CTO of Gaming Mechanics, also a software development company here on the Isle of Man. And yeah, we're joining Curbsy in this enterprise.
Great. So Millie and Milo is a matchmaking marketplace for breeders of pedigree dogs. So owners of pedigree dogs will be familiar with the inheritable challenges that are found in their particular breeds. Breeders have been working over generations to reduce and eliminate these problems, but they're hitting the barriers of inadequate tools, incomplete networks, and distrust. To dig into that just a little bit more, the right tools are available and they're getting better all the time. You can get DNA tests from genetics labs, your veterinarian can do health tests, and the Kennel Club can show you the coefficient of inbreeding for a match. But there's no place to combine and understand these results, let alone a place where you can find that match to test. This is exacerbated by the problem of fragmented networks. The breeders in the show community largely know each other, but they sell show quality pedigree dogs outside of the community. And for these owners, the only person they know to turn to for breeding advice is their dog's breeder. So once you're one generation removed, the networks become narrow and fragmented. The third problem is trust. Trust is broken down among stakeholders within the community for a number of reasons over a number of years. And at this point, the most trusted bodies in the industry are the breed clubs, of which there are over 1,300 in the UK alone. There's no single trusted community or source of information.
Sorry, Lydia, you're not sharing your screen, actually.
Can you guys not see the screen?
No, I thought that you just decided not to share the slides.
Oh, that's disappointing. Okay, thank you for letting me know. I should be sharing a screen. Can you see it now?
Yeah,
Yes.
perfect.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Carrying on then.
Yeah, no problem. So, right. So to address these problems that Lydia mentioned, we have a matchmaking algorithm that will combine DNA test results, information from the kennel club, such as coefficient of inbreeding, and all the information for each dog taken from the content within our website to find the very best match. And with it being a website containing all these dog owners and dogs, we'll build a network there that will address that limited network problem by allowing people to connect and expand who they can reach. And finally, once we have enough of a critical mass, we'll be able to use community-sourced quality ratings for breeders to address the trust issue, as well as an escrow service that we'll offer and an educational portal that will provide information to allow people to breed more responsibly.
Our pricing is tiered and subscription-based. It starts at free for just the educational materials, and it moves to £10 a month per dog for access to the matchmaking technology. Champion dogs go free, and there's also a pro option for the serious breeders. And once the Millie and Milo matches start producing puppies, which is the point of all of this, breeders will have access to our puppy pipeline, which is a place to record and share information about the puppies from conception to when they go to their new homes, and which is also a way for us to get new members from early on. When it comes to our revenue model and the product comparison against others in the market, note that these aren't necessarily competitors, especially in the case of the Kennel Club, but they're companies with which our customers likely have accounts or have had accounts for breeding and puppy-related services. There is no matchmaking service like this out there. You can solicit for studs on Pets for Home, or you can check the coefficient of inbreeding of a match at the Kennel Club. But what we're building doesn't exist on the market yet, which is pretty surprising given the size of the market. This year and last year, UK dog ownership has risen to 33% of UK households, and 1/3 of those actually own more than one dog. And they're spending more and more on their pets every year. Overall, we think that there are just under 2 million pedigree dogs of breedable age in the UK, of which there are 50,000 bitches being bred annually now. The Kennel Club also sees new registrations of 250,000 puppies every year. Worldwide, the pet care market was valued at over $232 billion last year, and is expected to grow substantially year on year, especially as we're going to see, as we're told, an economic boom on the horizon. When it comes to the team, there are 7 of us here, as well as 1 advisor. So there are 7 people drawn from Curbsy and Gaming Mechanics. Skill sets cover the full spectrum of what you need to run a tech business, from development and data to design and marketing. Our advisor is Jackie Mavro-McAllis. She's the president of the Scottish and Pennines French Bulldog Club, and she has over 50 years experience breeding and showing pedigree dogs.
So on our roadmap, we currently have a prototype up and running on millionmilo.com, and we're launching our MVP in November. On the partnership side, on the breed clubs and vet groups, we also have partnered with Pet Genetics Lab for the DNA tests. And from now on and continuing always, we're gathering feedback from our users to shape the product based on that feedback. And this is something we'll do heavily through A/B testing, user experience research, and much more.
When it comes to our financial projections, we are looking at breaking even in June of 2023. But what's most important to note about this is that the business is entirely scalable. We will not need to hire lots of people or spend a lot of money on marketing as we grow, because the marketplace will grow as more dogs join up and our database gets larger and matches are made. For this reason, we're only asking for £125,000 today for 20% equity, which will cover the addition of a new staff member, the completion of our product, and our initial marketing output. And if you'd like to speak with us further, of course, you can ask questions right now, or we can be reached at lydia@millionmilo.com.
Or Felipe@millionmilo.com, and please visit our prototype website at www.millionmilo.com.
Great. And if you want to see this, presentation in full from the very first slide, go to millionmilo.com/investors, and you'll see that, and you'll be able to download our business plan as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Lydia and Felipe. Just the first question coming in, how will you ensure that you have enough puppies to make the matches?
Right. So critical mass is always a challenge when it comes to networks. What we're doing is we're going to be focusing on just the top breeds initially. So half of the puppies that are registered with the Kennel Club are registered with only 5 breeds. So we'll be going in through the kennel, through the breed club specifically for the very top breeds to start to get as much liquidity, as we would call it, enough puppies in there, enough dogs in there that we can start making matches with just a small group of breeds before expanding outwards to others.
Also, because we're offering free memberships to champion dogs, you know, we're going to be reaching out to these to start with, which provides a little bit of a initial membership as well.
Great, thank you very much. And I know there's been a huge uptake in people buying puppies and dogs during the pandemic. As we're kind of moving into, you know, everyone's getting more vaccinated and people are starting to live with the virus, etc. Do you think that there will be a reduction in the demand for puppies, and would this affect the service at all?
So the puppy boom was pretty crazy. Pets for Homes said that they were getting 420 people for every dog that was trying to be rehomed through their platform, and basically demand just completely and totally outstripped supply. But with more and more people starting to work in a hybrid fashion, working from home and from the office, and with more and more millennials choosing to have dogs instead of children, I think that this trend will continue to rise. And I think that as there's been also greater focus on the health issues from puppy farms and from disreputable breeders, so the interest in responsible breeding is increasing and will continue to increase.
Thank you. And we've just got another one come in. In terms of revenue generation, do you feel your proposed pricing plan is strong enough to attract people that use services such as Gumtree as a one-off payment to advertise for services?
I think that people will use both, and that's a really good question. We spent a lot of time on pricing and tried out a whole bunch of different models. What we ended up doing was going out to the breeding community, both here on the Isle of Man and in the UK, and asking the questions of how much do you pay now? What would you be willing to pay? And it was based on that and around some other subscription services that we put our pricing. I wouldn't be surprised if it is adjusted. I mean, everyone's pricing gets adjusted. Netflix goes up every couple of years, et cetera. And this will be something we keep an eye on because it is very hard to get the correct price from first on. But I think we should have no problem whatsoever getting people in for £10 a month per dog.
Perfect. I would definitely use it when I get a dog.
That's the feedback that we get from everyone.
Yeah, just waiting for the right time. So can you just tell us a bit more how the matchmaking will actually happen?
Yeah. So what will happen is there's an onboarding process. So everyone will someone would sign up with their dogs and their dog's information. We'd get their Kennel Club information, which we can verify against the Kennel Club data to make sure that they're genuine. And we'll gather their health tests and their DNA tests, which they will have in digital form and they can send over to us. So our technology will read and understand those and start making matches based on the results of those tests. And initially, we're going to have a very qualified person on the back end double checking these before they go back out to people, just so that we can refine the algorithm and make sure that we're actually promoting strong matches. Once a person has a collection of possible matches, then they can contact the breeders directly and speak with them through our system. It's not Tinder for dogs. It's a bit more like arranged marriages for dogs, if anything, simply because of the amount of due diligence that happens before the breeding event can actually take place.
Okay, thank you very much for that. As with the others, Lydia and Felipe will be sharing their email addresses in the chat, and we will also be emailing everyone after the event with their details. So please feel free to contact them directly. Thank you very much, Lydia. And
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Yeah.
Next up, I would like to introduce you to Joshua from Feed.
Hi.
Hi, Joshua. So Feed are the go-to marketing tool powering the growth of millions of musicians, creators, and micro businesses. Feed generates 10 times the results of creators' other ads, like for like, based on 100K user-generated spend in beta, resulting in a 20% incentive-free referral rate.
Right. Hopefully you can see the slides.
Yeah, perfect.
Great. Perfect. So yeah, as Katie mentioned, I'm Joshua, the co-founder of Feed, an automated marketing tool built to power the growth of millions of creators in the passion economy. To start with a bit of the backstory, myself and my co-founder Nick actually started a record label together back in 2019. My background is in digital in record labels, and Nick had been working in the music industry since leaving the investment world about a year before. On one level, the purpose was to help musicians with their first ever releases, but on a second level, it was really for us as founders to understand the process that they go through. One artist we signed was the producer and songwriter Inka Upendo from Finland, and whilst working on the campaign for her first EP, we managed to get her a slot at the Reading and Leeds festivals in the UK, with the BBC filming her set. And we thought, great, we can use this footage for social media ads to help grow her audience afterwards. So we set the campaign up, but what surprised us was that people didn't really respond all that well to the BBC footage. At the same time, we'd happened to set up a bit of throwaway content from an Instagram story where Inka was talking about how to pronounce Mauritius. Is it Mauritius or Mauritius? This ad, people responded to so much more positively, not only in terms of engagement, but also clicking through to her Spotify page to find out more about her and her music. What we took away from this is that you really can't predict what content is going to resonate with people. And often the compelling content already exists in someone's social media. These insights form the basis of Feed, which grows and monetizes a creator's audience by figuring out which posts perform best as ads and leaning into the content that gets the best results. The whole experience of running a record label meant we truly understood the pain points of musicians and validated the gap in the market for a product like Feed. Those pain points were low budgets, little to no marketing knowledge, and experience with tools that are either way too complicated or expensive to use. The interface that you can see is Facebook's Ads Manager. At this point, you might be asking how creators more generally come into this. Well, the musicians that we initially tested the alpha version Feed with started referring friends who were running fashion startups or working in food or making podcasts. And we quickly realized that these pain points translated and were shared by them all. And there was nothing particularly music specific about our algorithm. It was effective across all these verticals. So to address these pain points, we designed Feed as a mobile first platform that requires no marketing knowledge, where you can get started from just £2 a day. And all the ad setup and optimization is fully automated. This means that creators can sign up, set a budget, and Feed handles the rest in terms of figuring out which posts work best as ads, which world, and on which ad networks. In the past year, we've been running a private beta, initially integrated with Facebook and Instagram. In that time, we've validated our algorithm and demonstrated that Feed improves our beta cohort's ad results by up to 10 times. As a result, £130,000 of ad budget has been spent through the platform, equating to roughly £200 per user, which is a significant amount for our target customer base, and 20% of those then referring someone else. Our pricing model aims to capture 10% of the ad spend through the platform and charge a 5 to 10% commission on any sales generated. So that's where we are now. Ultimately, our vision is to become the go-to marketing tool for millions of creative entrepreneurs around the world. And to get there, really, our next challenge is growth. And a big part of that is going to be customer support in terms of making sure that our customers feel like they are getting the most out of the platform. And that's what we'll be using this round of investment for, to hit break even in the next 6 to 9 months and begin growing at 5 to 7% week on week. We're actually in the closing stages of this investment round of £300,000. I'm working towards a close in the next 2 or 3 weeks. However, there is potential for some last minute conversations if people are interested. thanks so much for listening, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Joshua. Okay, the first question that has come in is, what kind of budget are artists and creators using Feed working with?
I mean, often people start with the sort of £2-3 that we market with, but people are going to up to sort of £5-10 a day. So kind of that, to give you a rough idea, there's been 1 or 2 people who've tested with even higher budgets of sort of £50 or £100 a day, and people talking to us about wanting to spend £3,000 a month. But really our focus is that those people that are kind of at the lower end, and hopefully we can grow as their budget grows with them.
Great, thank you. And another one, what insights does Feed use outside of standard social media engagement metrics?
So coming from the music background, the initial other data source that we pull in is based on Spotify in terms of monthly listeners and where those people are around the world. But there's lots of other data sources that we want to integrate as we keep developing out the beta and moving into the full version of the product. So at the moment, the algorithm is based on Facebook, Instagram, and Spotify data, but lots more to come.
Thank you very much. And another question, why haven't you grown massively yet?
That's kind of been a conscious choice. So we kept the platform in a private beta. You have to kind of request access on our website. And the reason being is Nick and I are first-time founders, so we want to make sure we've got the right experience in the team before we really go for growth. As part of this round, we've also just entered into a partnership with a company called The Rattle, who run a venture label program. I can obviously share more information about them to anyone that's interested, but what that means is that they provide team and infrastructure. So people that have been through Y Combinator in the US, people that have been part entrepreneurs and residents at MIT. So there's a whole wealth of experience of people who've run startups and grown them before, which will get added or has now been added into the team.
Okay, thank you very much. And one more, you mentioned using an algorithm to ascertain the best method to place ads. How do you feel this places against Google, Bing, etc.?
Well, I think the benefit of our algorithm is that it works across multiple ad networks. So we can make the decision on behalf of the creator whether Google gets the best results for them in terms of driving them through to sales on their Shopify store, or whether Facebook makes more sense, or Twitter, for example. So our algorithm is always optimizing towards those conversion events ultimately. And the other part of that is, whilst Google's algorithm is incredibly effective, you need to know how to use it and how to set up a marketing funnel and those kinds of things. So what Feed does is automate that process, setting up a marketing funnel for you so that you don't need to know how to get the best out of Google's algorithm. Feed kind of does that for you.
Yeah, I guess that's a really important part as well for someone that's, for example, an artist or creator, so they can actually just focus on doing what they're doing.
Exactly. We kind of aim to work with those algorithms that already exist on Facebook and Google. It's an algorithm for controlling other algorithms so that the creator doesn't have to learn how to do it themselves or spend any time doing it.
And is there a reason why a tech giant hasn't built or can't build what you guys are building at Feed?
I think, as we've seen with things like Snapchat and lots of other tools, tech giants do imitate frequently. But I think the difference with us is that obviously Facebook isn't going to build a tool that also works across Twitter's ad network or Google's ad network. So it's a big differentiator for us there, is the ability to put those things into one place.
And just one final question, what other types of creators are you working with outside of musicians?
So a quarter to a third of our user base are fashion startups, people that are kind of 1 or 2 people who design and do all the work themselves, and kind of active on Instagram and Shopify. So that's probably our next biggest group. There's also a few custom bike shops, which stands out as another vertical. So yeah, I'd say those are the three. I think, again, we're really focusing in on the fashion side of things at the moment, and starting to speak to some fashion startups in Los Angeles as well. So looking globally.
Sounds very exciting.
It is for me.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm looking forward to seeing how things progress for you guys. And thank you so much, Joshua. And yeah, we will follow up with your details to the attendees this evening.
Perfect. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you. Next up, we have Dr. Ed from Life. Unfortunately, Ed is actually has actually been called in to the hospital this evening. So I have pre-recorded his pitch with him, which I will share with you now.
Good evening, everybody. My name's Ed. I'm a doctor and also the co-founder of our company, Life. We've created the very first complete wellness social platform in the world. And at the moment, we're trying to raise capital to achieve product market fit and scale into more cities. Before we get into the bolts of what we're doing, let me give you a bit of background first. So in the UK and in Europe, what we do is typically from a health perspective, we focus on our health from what we call a negative health paradigm. And what that means is we wait for something to go wrong and then we try and fix it. It's got poor patient outcomes and it's very expensive. The future, what it holds is actually a change of focus, what we call the positive health paradigm, and it's a greater focus on wellness and well-being. So the landscape at the moment is quite confusing. If you want to live a healthy lifestyle, there are so many different apps that you would need to download to engage with that healthy lifestyle. For example, MindBody if you want to book fitness classes, Pinterest if you want inspiration, Evergreen Health if you want to do GP consultations, book medications. You've got Under Armour for tracking your calories, Instagram, Glowfox, the list goes on and on and on, depending on what your goals are. And frankly, it's very exhausting and people don't have the time. So what we did was we have created Life, and it solves all of these issues and brings it into one central domain. So it's a full wellness ecosystem. And the reason it works, we'll come on to that in a second, but there's three key factors. We focus on prevention. There's a whole platform of your favorite brands, and you can engage with those brands on different levels, watching content, buying products and services off them, getting offers. It's a whole online health community, taking that health high street and taking it digital. Here's just some of the features. We don't have time to go through every single one today, but I would love to discuss them in more depth with you. The key features that people like are the discoverability factors. If you want to live a healthy lifestyle, you don't necessarily know where to go or how to do it. So all of the things that we put onto the platform are vetted by doctors, and you can see in real time what's around you. So this works for three things. Number one, people want things more convenient. This is the biggest trend since the 1920s. People want things faster and they want things now. Secondly, people want things more personalized. We're moving away from services. We're moving more into an experience kind of world. And the other thing, if you think about the biggest apps in the world, the biggest platforms in the world, they all have some kind of social aspects. Think Instagram, TikTok, WhatsApp. Now, of course, that comes with some mental health considerations, which we have taken into account. And that's how we created Life. So now I want you to put your corporate hat on. So the health partners that we link up to, this is one of our healthy partners called Yogasita. She actually had similar issues to our user base, and she was having to use these 4 platforms to manage her online wellness business. On the left there, that's MindBody for booking classes, YouTube for content, Instagram to hit a market, and Glowfox for further content packages. It was exhausting for her. She was spending £350 a month on it, and it just was not sustainable. So we've created this whole back end for Yogasita and our other health partners to manage their entire wellness business online. Feedback so far is that all of our founding partners absolutely love the product, and here's some testimonial from Yogasita, Lucita herself. That's why we've got over 15,000 users already pre-signed up to the app. Now, of course, there's a scaling strategy within that, which we're partway through, but we're not just opening the floodgates. The scaling strategy, there's 8 core life elements, we call them. There's 8 key areas of your life in which you must engage, and we onboard our healthy partners in these areas. We are just in Liverpool for now, but we're going to copy and paste the same strategy across further cities in the UK once it's appropriate. The market itself is huge. It's worth over 13 billion, and it's been growing between 14 and 21% year on year. On average, it's sat at 19%. Glowfox, arguably our closest competitor, own a 0.11% share of the market, and last year they turned over 18.4 million. Since their conception around 10 years ago, they've raised almost 33 million. Our revenue streams as a business, we can't go through all of them, but essentially it's a subscription-based service for partners and for users, and there are also corporate packages which we tie in there. So previously, we've received a £100,000 grant from the council, including some European funding on top of that, and recently announced as an LCR Tech Climber this year. Our journey to date, we've hit everything on this milestone delivery, and we are now in August 21, so we're actually ahead of time in the product iteration and update, and we are also ahead of schedule with our users and retailer base. So like I said before, a team of doctors with wide range experience in healthcare, looking specifically at lifestyle medicine. And our board have worked on massive global brands and also advise at UK and European level around tech for good and lifestyle interventions. So currently we're looking for 150k investment. We have SEIS and EIS to get our product market fit. We are open to further offers of more cash to achieve scaling faster, but at this stage, we're not that cash tight, so we're keeping it at 150k to hold on to as much equity as possible. Now I'll leave you with this: what LinkedIn is to your profession is what life is to your health. That allows you to conceptualize it perhaps a little bit easier. But there you are. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to share pitch decks and speak to you at a later date. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Ed. I've just got a quick question to get started, please. Could you just tell us a bit more about your route to market for Life, and if maybe some more detail on how that route to market will help you grow your user base? Yeah,
sure. So we focus really around key partnerships with business institutions, really. So, we've already signed two large memorandums of understanding with the business. There's multiple business sectors within Liverpool. We've signed, memorandums of understanding with arguably the 2 biggest business communities there. So, that secures a lot of users straight up, and also it allows us to implement our corporate wellbeing strategies alongside it. So we have a 4-stage process of diagnostics, so looking at what problems businesses have, implementing the strategy and delivering whatever resource that they need. And then there's 2 stages of follow-up. The long-term follow-up is the Life app, which allows the individuals to constantly live this healthy lifestyle. So, the whole business strategy ties into this essentially funnel to get people into the end product. So yeah, that's kind of the strategy that we've taken so far: onboarding large corporations, doing some well-being work with them along our consultancy arm of the business, and funneling that down into the app. So that's how we get the users on there eventually. Great, thank you for that. And then moving on to, how do you see Life? Obviously, there's 2 of you co-founders, but in the longer term, how do you see the team progressing and growing over the course of the next 12 months? And if you receive the 150k funding? Yeah, so I mean, at the moment, it's difficult to actually build the resource that we want in the team. We want to bring things in-house, but at the moment we are doing agency work. So we want to use our CTO to build out a bit of a junior developer team so we can act quicker. We're building the app along the agile methodology where, we're collecting user feedback and we're plotting it on a graph to see what would produce the best results for the business. And then that needs to be built as quickly as possible. So there's that side of things where we want to bring things in-house, but then also fundamentally what me and Tobias are doing is we are So I'm stepping back from my clinical role in hospitals a little bit more in a month's time to focus more heavily on the business. And we're both studying for diplomas in lifestyle medicine, and we're becoming as highly accredited as we can across the global stage in lifestyle medicine, which is where the whole market is moving. As I said before, we're moving away from negative health into a positive health paradigm. So we're trying to be at the forefront of this really on a global stage.
Perfect. I think that actually fits really well with the whole messaging that the government have been putting out around COVID, actually, in terms of trying to like start off with a healthier lifestyle in order to kind of combat illnesses down the line. So thanks very much for that. And just in terms of the financial data, the ask is 150K. In terms of what you've shared with us, that's obviously you've said you're willing to take more, but that is quite a reasonable amount. Could you give us some more information on that, please?
Yeah, sure. So we've done a large piece of work with the LCR Finance Hub, and the projections that we've put in for where the app can get to on a very conservative level indicates that we actually don't need too much funding. And if we look 5 years down the line, of course, we want to hold on to as much equity as possible within the business. So the first point is that we're more than happy to share the projections with people who would like to see them. But secondly, that when we look down the line, we do want to be in a really strong position with the business. We've got big aspirations for it, and we fundamentally believe in the product. So we don't want to ask for more money just for the sake of asking for more money to try and scale quickly, because when we look at the projections, we have enough long-term cash flow to support us to do that. But of course, we need that initial cash injection to build the team and bring it in-house, as I said before. So that's the current strategy, and like I say, happy to share more information on it.
Great, thank you. I think that's wise as well. People always say not to kind of take on more cash than you need in the early stages. Okay, that's great. Thanks so much, Ed. I will share your details with our attendees this evening, and if anyone would like to follow up with Ed directly, you can do so. Hi everybody, hopefully you were able to see that all okay. And as with the other pictures this evening, we'll be sharing all the info with you via email first thing tomorrow morning. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I appreciate you giving up your time on this sunny evening. Thank you also to Continent 8, as I mentioned earlier, for continuing to support us. Please do follow Founded on social media. We're at Founded on LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, and keep up to date for our future events and goings on. Thank you very much and have a fantastic evening.